Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. All right. This is a really good morning in a lot of ways, but in some ways, it's kind of like a challenging morning. We discovered on Friday that the raccoons are back. You remember the challenge we had with the raccoons before. We had solved it for a long time because we put this metal around the trees so they couldn't climb up the trees to get on the roof. We did it all around the church, and for about a year and a half, 2 years, we had no problem with raccoons. But when the trees grew, some of the metal broke loose and fell, and we never replaced it. And now the raccoons are back in mass. So we have to have them trapped. It's going to cost money to have the raccoons trapped because they're in the ceiling and they're working the church over. Okay. It's going to be kind of expensive. That's why when you get ready to do the offering, it's going to cost a lot of money to rent a mountain lion and put him on the roof. Anyway, is there anybody here that's from another Unity? Anybody here for the first time? Anybody here that knows about raccoons? All right. Well, okay. Syntysche's got a great talk for you. She always does. So look forward to it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Boulder. Jack wasn't kidding about that mountain lion. And what's more depressing is that when we do that, he's going to make me take it up there. So I'm not exactly excited about that plan. But yeah, our raccoon problem is pretty rough right now. But I got a few announcements of upcoming things that are happening here at Unity of Boulder. Our women's book group that has already started, it started 2 weeks ago, but it's only met once. We took a week off for Valentine's Day, but the second meeting of it is this Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. That's led by Syntysche. We are still letting people sign up. If you'd like to join this women's book group, please just sign up in the bookstore following this service, or you can do it online or do it over the phone or show up on Tuesday night. We're doing it at a slightly reduced rate because you missed a class for $75, and we do have the book in the store. So, and it's the book is called The Gift of Change. It's by Marianne Williamson. So please check it out. Syntysche's book groups are always wonderful, and people seem to enjoy them quite a bit. We have an upcoming homeopathic principles workshop, and that is going to be led by Wendy Littlepage, who... Raise your hand, Wendy. She's right there. There's Wendy. Wendy is awesome. She is a longtime friend and congregant of Unity of Boulder, but she's also a certified classical homeopath. She's going to basically be teaching about things you can do at home to heal yourself and keep yourself healthy. It's a $45 workshop. It's Sunday, March 5th. It's 2 hours. You can sign up for that in the bookstore or online or basically everywhere. So check that out. Wendy knows what she's doing. A Course in Miracles, or ACIM, we are going to be restarting it March 6th. That is a year-long course. If you've ever wanted, this is for people who, it's mostly for people who've never taken A Course in Miracles. It will be taught by Steve Hayes. You can sign up for that as well. Bookstore, online, call us on the phone. But March 6th is when that starts, and after 1 or 2 classes, or 1 or 2 weeks of it, we stop accepting people registering for it. So if you've been looking for a Course in Miracles class, please do that as soon as possible. And lastly, our choir season for Easter has officially started. So if you've ever wanted to join the choir, you absolutely, we're asking you, please jump in. Norma would love to have you. We definitely would love to have more male singers. You don't have to be an amazing singer. You don't have to be world-renowned, nothing like that. If you just enjoy singing at all and would love to be a part of the amazing shows we put on during Easter, please, all you have to do is show up this Thursday at 6:30, and Norma will find the spot for you in our choir and in our show. So thank you, and enjoy the service.
Good morning, everyone. So this is the part in our service which is a call for prayer, and we want to invite you to take a piece of paper out of the pew in front of you, and we invite you to pray. Put a name down. You don't have to put what the issue is or the last name, because we know that God already knows what we need before we even ask, and really to be in the call of prayer is to be in alignment with what already is coming. So we're really moving our energy towards what's always healing. So write that down, and then Lisa, who is on our prayer team, she will come down, and if you could get them to get to this middle aisle, she will collect them from all of you, and it's okay to pray for yourself too. You have to remember that. We have to take care of ourselves as well. Okay. And we're going to sing this just to align ourselves with this greater power, this greater love we call God, Source, Spirit.
Presence of God is in this place, in every tree, every flower, and child's face. And I know all God's creations deserve this sacred space. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Now join us. It was just like I found myself like, this world is shaky, and it's shaking, and what an opportunity to be reminded to go within. Because if we're going to look to the world for any advice for where we want to show up, or where we want our lives to show up, or where we want the planet to end up, I don't think we're going to find it out there. You know, they say to be in the world, but not of the world. And we're definitely being pushed to really do our practice, right? So that conversation affected me for about 48 hours. I shook it, and I sat with what I do know about spirit, and educating ourselves on the part of us that lives forever, regardless if we have a planet or not, honestly, like the soul. What are our souls doing right now? How is it growing us, or is it not growing us, and are we moving towards fear instead of coming back to this greater power, this greater love that embraces and encompasses everything? I saw this writing today, and I wanted to read this to you, by Daryl Anka on shifting realities. If you realize that there is an infinite number of parallel realities, then you realize that there is an infinite number of parallel versions of Earth that coexist simultaneously right now. So I'm basically saying you never actually change the world you are on. You change yourself. And you shift yourself incrementally to different versions of Earth that already exist, that are more and more and more reflective of the change you make within you. People may still exist on the world you left behind, but you may never interact again, because they may actually be on another vibrational level of Earth that exists simultaneously with the one you've shifted to. And when you think of yourself as an indestructible, eternal, infinite being, nothing is ever really lost. And you can see how, if you look to the world, which I did for that day and some change, the vibrational difference that I was, right, versus the one that just walks in nature and looks for beauty, that looks for divine order, that looks for messages in the creatures that cross your path, and look at the animal totems and how spirit is connecting with us and holding us up in this high vibration, and not buying into the fear of the world. And honestly, we lose any control we have when we buy into that, because that lowers our frequencies, and now we're in that subtle energy of low-frequencied world. And we're heading into the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius is about the undoing of things that were built off of lies, off of discord, off of things that were not really for the greater whole. So it's a dismantling that we're watching, and I don't know if we really have had 3 UFOs shot out of the sky, or if that's a distraction, right? But that's some crazy stuff, right? And that train that spilled all of that awful stuff in Ohio, it's just, we got to pray for our brothers and sisters on this planet and hold ourselves as the second coming of this Christ light for this world. And that's a big, tall order, because we really have to just trust and build our faith in this love, right? So getting caught up in that trap of the news, right? And I was really internalizing all of it. And then I went to sleep the second night when I decided I've got to just connect with Spirit. I just have to think of things that are just gorgeous and still beautiful, like music and art and painting and walking without shoes on the earth, and just going back to the simplicity that brings us back into our homeostasis and our balance. That night I had a dream, but it wasn't a dream. And when you've been on this path, you've had these experiences that are sort of like out-of-body experiences. And in this place, I was in an alternate universe. It looked much like the world looks, except that it was just a frequency of pure love. And there were entities in this alternate universe that were faceless, but I knew them. And there was communication, and there was support, and there was love. And it was so tangible and tactical. This was a place I'm in all the time, but for some reason I don't remember in this vein of my life this other whatever it was, right? And when I woke up, I'm sitting there trying to go, well, why am I know these characters in my life, I know how they're playing out in my life, and yet they're not even in this realm at all that I'm living in the present. But yet the kinship and the connection, and there was sarcasm and humor. It was just like these were people, but like I wasn't supposed to see the image of them in the landscape that I was in. But all I felt was just pure hope. It was like Spirit was like, I'm just gonna show you that there's a whole other way to perceive this life, and I want to be in the midst of that kind of love, that kind of friendship, that kind of kinship. And I don't know if those were people that have crossed over, or if that's soul family members that are about to join me in this world. I have no idea, but I know it wasn't a dream. I know it was a vision and a reality. Like he's saying, there's alternative realities in the midst of us. Who's had that experience where you've visited an alternative reality? And it's amazing, right? And you never forget, you forget pieces of it, but you know the feeling and the vibration of it, and the frequency's high. And really, I think that's what we're here to do, is to try to merge with these kind of high frequencies so we can live in it all the time, regardless of what's happening in the world. I read this last week, but it just seemed to work again this week. In Marianne Williamson's The Gift of Change, she says, most of us live with a deep subconscious longing for another kind of world. We sing about it, write poetry about it, watch movies about it, create myths about it. We continue to imagine it, though we never quite seem to find it. Our secret desire is to penetrate the veil between the world we live in and a world of something much more real. One thing we know for sure, this world can't be it. This world cannot be it, right? So what is it that you thought you were going to find with this life? What were your expectations of love and fulfillment of this human journey as a spiritual being? What did your soul think was going to happen here? More than any other time before, we are being called to lean on our faith in the unseen world, on spirit, with those friends that live a life through a lens of love and kindness. In Proverbs, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. What does that mean? So much growth for understanding. We can look at what's tangible, and then we can look at what's spiritual. We all have decisions to make, and yet this proverb is clearly stating that you should not trust your own thinking or reasoning. The way my mind works, it causes me to ask, why should we lean not on our own understanding? What is it about our mind or heart that cannot be trusted? And I think it's a development of understanding. In that prayerful place, that is the understanding. When we are in that meditative space where we are being divinely guided to do something different, to do something better, to tune the string. Just, like they say, it doesn't have to be some drastic change that it's like overcoming a mountain to get into this place of the power of now or the Zen consciousness. It can just be the tuning of a string, just that slightest bit of just getting a little higher in your consciousness to observe an understanding which is more Christ-like or Buddha nature or whatever seer you follow that precedes our life. For me, Edgar Cayce is a big one. I'm going to be talking about him today. And Edgar Cayce, my middle name is Cayce, after Edgar Cayce. And I was also born in Unity Village, where the mother of unities is. So I have the unity, I was born there, and then Edgar Cayce was the great work that started my parents' spiritual journey. And I resonate with Edgar Cayce's work a lot. So I'm going to share with you a little story that happened to me about a week ago. I was walking with a friend just a little over a week ago, and he asked about where one of my close friends was, that he hasn't seen me or heard me talk about him in a while. And I just said, well, Sebastian is on his own journey. The last I heard, he was leaving Scottsdale to live in another country, I think either Mexico or Panama. I said he texted me on my birthday, but I didn't respond because keeping track of him as a friend brings up abandonment issues. This is what I shared with my friend. We go sometimes 6 months to a year between chats, and I've discovered it hurts me that there's that kind of a distance. My friend that I was on a walk with called me later that day and said, "Your feeling abandoned is made up by you." He is doing his spiritual journey, which my friend Sebastian is one of the most highly conscious people that I do know. And you, Syntysche, are also growing, doing your spiritual work. I bet if you reached out, you would find you are still in sync on this journey. And I slept on it, and I called Sebastian first thing in the morning, and I left a message. I think it was just, hi Sebastian, Syntysche. Just wanted to touch base to see how you are. And he texted back immediately. It was so wonderful to hear your voice. And then we made an appointment to chat on the phone later that day. When I heard Sebastian's voice the next day over the phone in his calm and loving demeanor, I was home. There's a sense of kinship that crosses the limitation of time and space in this friendship. He said, "Do you realize we haven't talked in over 2 years?" Which I didn't realize it had been that long. I explained the things I was harboring and distanced myself from him. He just listened and just supported me through it. I found out that he is living in the mountains of Costa Rica, living his best life after spending the last year in Tulum, Mexico. He shared all the divine order of his life, all of the synchronicities that have brought him to Costa Rica, where he lives next to the largest lake there, which is shaped like a heart and is a natural spiritual vortex, which would just make sense because he only lives like in Sedona or, he's always in the vortex energied places. He's just this lone ranger of spirituality, right? He hasn't ever been married. He doesn't have any kids. He's on a divine mission this lifetime, right? So I went on this journey on this phone call. My soul and heart was so full by the completion of this phone call. We scheduled another time to talk, and we left it there. I got off the phone and went about my day in sort of a high trance. The energy pulsating through my being was palpable. I was sort of flying. And as the day went on, I had a chance to share it all with Mike, my entire conversation and experience of it. And in the midst of my sharing, a lump came to my throat of so many emotions hitting me at once. And then tears. Mike sat in the car with me as I had no words of the presence of God. I don't know if I can share this. Flowing through my being. Curious of having a friend in this world that I know have traveled with me so many lifetimes. He was there for all the big markers of my life, the beautiful ones and the tragic ones. My husband just held space, shaking his head yes, as to say I understand. I know, you don't have to explain it to me. But they were the best tears. It was just the tears of remembrance, right? That I was pushing away because it's been hard for me to do the human experience and not have a constant connection with him. And I realize it's a different journey. He's kind of like a spiritual guide that's walking this path with me. And when I need him, he's there, right? And he is definitely in this world, but not of it. This is one of those people. He's just wonderful. Wayne Dyer says, I've become aware that there is something bigger moving the pieces around even when we think we are making the choices. I've become aware that there is something bigger moving the pieces around even when we think we are making the choices. Edgar Cayce goes on to say that we are not our body. We are our soul, our spirit. Even in this now body, you've had many bodies. You came in a newborn around 6 to 8 pounds. Then you were a 5-year-old body. And a 10-year-old who have been 20, and some of us 30, 50, 70. But all those bodies are different, and even your body today will be different when you leave here. But one thing that is a constant is your soul. Your spirit that has had so many bodies, but not just this lifetime, over countless lifetimes. So we look to this physical constant much too often when we have memories of all the bodies and are stored in a subconscious place within us that every once in a while we get nibbles of. A sense of knowing from something we never had learned from a book, a life lesson this lifetime. And we tend to know it is something from somewhere we can't identify because we tend to cry. There's a resonance. And those tears, we taste those tears, and those tears transform us of memory. You know that what karma is, as Edgar Cayce says, it's memory. So nobody ever comes to hurt our lives. But if there's something that's difficult in this life, it's because of something we remember we did and we need to make right this time. So there's no judgmental God that's like, oh, you did bad in your last lifetime. But you may remember on some sort of soul level that there's something to be making right this time, right? We come into our lifetime in soul groups, each appearing throughout our lives. They're there as a mirror of love and advancement to remind us of our divine nature. Edgar Cayce called them soulmates, but not all soulmates are about intimate relationships at all. They come in the form of parents, best friends, our children, and we know they are our soulmates because of the familiar nature of their entering our lives. An instant kinship or an instant disdain can also be a soulmate for growth and deeper development, right? So it's not always just like a love fest. It could just be something that's like you immediately just don't like this person. Have you ever had that? You're like, this person has done nothing to me and I literally don't like you. Probably a soul family member, right? We got some working out to do. Like they're like, okay, you're ready. Let's do a little karmic work here, and sometimes we're that person for someone else. We're willing to be the one that creates disdain in somebody to help them grow their soul, right? What a beautiful gift of that person that shows up with the disdain. A soulmate is an ongoing connection with another individual that the soul picks up again in various times and places over lifetimes. We are attracted to another person at a soul level, not because that person is our unique complement, but because by being with that individual, we are somehow provided with an impetus to become whole ourselves. So who have had that instant connection? It doesn't have to be your partner. It can be like that instant connection when you are somewhere. It might be your best friend this lifetime. Like My girlfriend Zoe, when I saw her walking down the hallways of Boulder High School, she had the most intense energy, and it was big, and it was scary, and I thought, I do not want to ever cross paths with that chick. Next thing I know, I'm in a car, and she's in that car, like within a few days, and she had me rolling on the floor with her sarcasm and everything, and she was home. Right, so it's this like, and she and I've done a lot of the disdain, until now, we're finally old. And now we just love each other. But when you're young, you're feistier. You have to, brawl it out. T.S. Eliot says, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Haven't you had that experience where you've gone full circle and all of a sudden you see it and now you understand it? That's the spiritual knowledge. Like, don't lean on your own understanding. It's that higher lens. It's that the spiritual lens that's been built into this majesty that sees from a different point of view, from a Christ point of view, from a, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to do or what to say because he who sent me directs me. It's getting out of our own way, getting out of our own ego and allowing Spirit to move in and through all of it. So I would rather say with this last statement that we don't have to wait till the end to arrive to where we started, but with our higher consciousness, with God, with Spirit, living from this knowing that I think everything I'm doing is all me, is actually I know that something else is doing it through me. That takes all the pressure off of us. Think of all the people with depression issues right now, clinical depression, circumstantial depressions, anxiety, that's the big one. I hear all the time, I'm panicking all the time, just panicking. I don't really know why I'm panicking, because we're trying to keep up with a world that's distorted. And we've forgotten who we are. I think a lot of us are noticing that we're not in the world as much as we used to. We're needing more time alone. We're needing more time in nature. We're needing more quiet, right? That synergy, that more, being with music. I find myself singing sonatum car songs because they're just so holy and just singing along, and there's no anxiety. I can't feel any anxiety when I'm singing songs like, "This is your way, Lord. This is your way. This is your way. I bow to you." When you're watching how your life is unfolding and that the Spirit is in everything that's unfolding before us. We have to be flexible in the face of change, resilient in the face of confusion. All of these attributes are choices, not talents, and all of them are available to you. Flexibility. Having a strong structure, but being able to be flexible. That strength in being rooted in Mother Earth, completely connected to Father Sky, and balancing the male and the feminine between all women and all men. Finding that sensitivity and growing the intuition and the psychic abilities. Because Jesus didn't say, I am the perfect child of God, so I only work these miracles. He said, you too will work these miracles if you go to the Father as I do. And it can be the mother. Some of us don't want to use the word Father or God, and use the word that makes you feel deeply connected to this love. It can be source, creator, mother. But staying connected with that, right? In Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Do not conform to the pattern of the world. This is written thousands of years ago. And yet it just works right now. It's like it was written yesterday. Do not conform to the pattern. Oh, thank you, God, for letting us know we don't have to conform to this, because this is insanity. This is insane what we're looking at in this world right now. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If we have soul friendships that are coming in to help be advocates with us, and we're soul friendships that are showing up in other people's lives to lift the consciousness, we're not alone ever. Every bit of this is a part of it. And if you think about passing over and not doing this physical life, that these friends come with us and our families stay with us and we stay together, so there's nothing to be afraid of. So stop looking at the doom of the world and, where are we headed? Because we're life eternal. There's so much more than the physical. So Edgar Cayce did a reading, and this is one of his writings, and it says, upon time and space is written the thoughts, the deeds, the activities of an entity. As in relationships to its environs, its hereditary influence as directed or judgment drawn by or according to what the entity's ideal is. Hence, as it has been often called, the record is God's book of remembrance. And each entity, each soul, as the activities of a single day of an entity in the material world either makes same good or bad or indifferent, depending upon the entity's application of self, of knowing thyself. Towards that which is the ideal manner for the use of time, opportunity, and the expression of that for which each soul enters a material manifestation. The interpretation then, as drawn here, is with the desire and hope that, in opening this for the entity, the experience may be one of helpfulness and hopefulness. And what he's talking about is the book of remembrance is called also the Akashic Records. And placed in the Akashic Records is a memory of all of our soul's journeys, all the many different lifetimes. And some really highly attuned spiritual beings are able to go to that Akashic Records and help people remember things so that they can heal it this lifetime, right? But you also, when you're going into meditation, or you're soaking in a hot springs, or you're dousing yourself with healing lights and singing chords like she does on one Friday a month, where you're singing harmonics and things like this together, you're opening up to the channel of opening that book of remembrance. And what's written on the tablet might not be put in words to you, but something just changes. That tuning of the string just happens because you expect it to. That you are intentional in your life, that you're ready to understand the greater understanding of this amazing life. So have you ever sat up out of bed and looked back and saw that your physical body was laying there still sleeping? Put your hands up if you've had that happen. Have you ever had a dream that predicted something that happened the next day? Have you ever had a sharp ring that entered your ear out of nowhere and left as quickly as it appeared? Have you ever wondered who was beckoning your attention at that moment? What did I just say? What did I just do? Because you should be doing that. When that sharp ring happens, that's your spirit guides. That's your angels that are going, take notice. What did you just say? What was in divine alignment? What's in divine order? What's unfolding for you? And it's saying, take note. Right? When we open up to these ethereal beings, we were spirit first. This human thing is so temporary, but the spiritual part, that we can connect to these other entities that support us, and all they are there is to keep us on track and to keep us happy, or at least content. And when we're in an unhappy place, they're running around like maniacs trying to figure out how can we put you back in alignment so that you can find your joy and your peace again. Have you ever almost been in an accident where everything goes in slow motion, giving you time to correct the wreck before you were in it? Look at all these experiences we've had, and we still think we're still looking to the world for the answers of our life. Have you ever been under the weather and you meet the perfect herbalist at the vitamin cottage and they give you something and you're like, that, better, right? Thank God for Vitamin Cottage and their little herbalists. That's such a wonderful gift to be able to go there. Have you ever left your body witnessing yourself having an experience from outside and it doesn't seem weird in the moment? And I've had that happen being a dancer, an ice skater, a performer. I've had it here where I've been speaking, and there's a sense that I'm observing my being speaking. And I expect that. And when I, before the service today, I was like, what is this talk about? And I just get out of your own way, Syntysche, because Spirit writes these sermons, and Spirit's going to give it today. So, I think I need to pass. I'm going to move on past the next slide. So I want to share an experience that's been caught on film, and I've shared this video before, but I think it's profound and I think it's needed right now. And it's about Wayne Dyer. And it's from his book, Wishes Fulfilled, and he writes this. St. Francis's influence first appeared in my life in a large, beautifully framed print of the entire prayer of St. Francis, which was given to me by someone at a lecture more than 25 years ago. The messages of the prayer resonated with me profoundly, and I loved how it appeared, so I hung it in my hallway that led to my children's bedrooms. I must have walked by the prayer at least 10,000 times in the decade that it hung there. Often I'd pause, read a few lines, and contemplate the magic in the words. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. And where there is darkness, let me bring light. These words seemed more like a technology than a prayer. I loved thinking that hatred could grow into love, and darkness could be illuminated, not by asking God to do it, but by being love and light. It seemed to promise that we humans had the ability to literally change suffering and pain by transforming ourselves. He goes on to write, I had an experience when I took 62 people on a journey called Experiencing the Miraculous, where we visited holy places where genuine miracles have taken place in the 13th, 19th, and 20th century. On our second day in Assisi, we gathered in an ancient church built hundreds of years ago when Francesco lived there and began the Franciscan order. And I'm going to play this video of this experience he had there.
I gave a lecture there in this city where 4 million people visit every single year. We gathered in the San Pietro Abbey. This is where that lecture was held. And I spoke for 2 hours without any notes and felt that something very magical was happening there at that lecture. Something in almost 40 years of giving public lectures had never happened to me before. This was the culmination of a lifetime of thinking about these ideas and writing about them in many, many books based on spirituality and higher consciousness. When I gave the lecture, something happened to me at the end of that lecture. I did a reading from Nikos Kazantzakis' novel, his sort of fictional representation of the life of St. Francis. And the reading was a story that was told by Kazantzakis of how St. Francis was so terrified of lepers and how he embraced a leper because Christ had told him, you have to learn to love that which you fear and that which you despise, and have no place for anything but love in you. And when you find a leper, to kiss it on the mouth. And this will rid you of your fear. And ultimately, he realized that this leper was really Jesus Christ. And as I was reading that story and telling that story, something happened to me. I froze on stage. I couldn't speak. I started sobbing uncontrollably. And everyone in the room, in this beautiful San Pietro Abbey church that had been built in the 10th century, they all stood up, and everyone just reached their hands out to me. And I reached out my hands to them. There was no applause. There was no there was no formalities like at the end of a talk. It was just as if everyone in the room just understood that something very miraculous was happening in the moment. And I don't know how long it lasted, but it seemed like 3 or 4 minutes where I just could not control the sobbing in a public lecture. It had never happened to me before. And when I left there and went back to the hotel, I laid in my bed and I realized that I was no longer talking about St. Francis, that we had become one. That at the highest levels of awareness, when you are passionate about what it is that you believe and what it is that you live, and you think from that place, that you actually become what it is that you place your attention on. That's the highest level of awareness that there is. And at that moment, I merged myself into the being, into the consciousness of St. Francis. And I felt as if something had taken over my body. And it's on the film of the lecture, and it's probably the most memorable moment that I've ever had in all the years that I've been doing public speaking.
I realized that when I watched that video and what happened to me after I talked to Sebastian and sitting in my car, that was the tears I was into. I was in a state of remembering my soul journey, what I'm here to do and be, and yet I can't put that out on paper, but it was just a knowing that he is that mirror of love and light, and God gave me someone like that to show me this resonance that we are all connected to St. Francis, we're all connected to Christ, to Buddha. We can call that kind of powerful, loving energy into our being at any time if we believe it's possible. It's belief. It's intending to have these miraculous experiences regardless of what's happening in the world, and being transformed by the renewing of our mind, renewing our mind. And we change the frequency of the world. Like he said, you lose people, they go into different frequencies, and they might be living in the same town, but we never cross paths anymore. Because now we're living in this higher dimension. We're carrying the energy, and hopefully they'll come and join us in that dimension. But most importantly, we find our collective high consciousness so we can enjoy this beautiful life regardless of what is going on in the world, getting out of the panic, getting out of the fear, and feeling God's love, Spirit's love, the Creator's love. So I just want us to close our eyes and just go into a little closing prayer right now. Just get your feet comfortable and just contemplate what came to you today, and really plant the seed from that inspiration for yourself to go onward today and make manifest that which is being planted in your being. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. I know it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying, leaving the old limited thoughts to keep us living small, that we are then born to eternal life. And we are so very grateful, Spirit. Amen.
Now is the time that we will take an offering. This is a time for you really to put yourself into the flow of Spirit. It is so easy with all the craziness of the world to think, what can I do? But I think each one of us, by showing up in a spirit of love and service, we are like that drop of water that turns into a creek and the river and the lake and the ocean, and then that ocean becomes the world that we would like to see. So please donate to this center, which is about supporting you on your journey, supporting this community, this region, and the world. I want to emphasize number 8 here, because there's always different ways, but if you call the office, there is a sorceress on the other end of the line. And that's right, I'm talking about you, Heather, because you can talk to her and she will find a way for you to participate as a volunteer or donating. So go ahead and call that number and help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for sharing with us the ways we can actually give back. And we're talking about the world. If you're still in the world, you're still clinging to the worldly thoughts that hold us in lack and limitation. And when you move into the spiritual awareness that Syntysche was sharing with us today, you move into that place where you have abundance and your life becomes more and more abundant in your giving. And it is true, the words that come down to us through the ages, from the Master of Life, as you give, so you will receive. So with these thoughts in our heart, let's bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder and share this offering prayer in our awareness. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. And we have another blessing. Rebecca is going to share her amazing music with us. Take stage, Rebecca.
I have a tattoo on my arm that says, "What would love do?" I got it when I became a parent. And it's a question I ask myself often when I'm going through some deep humanness. This is a song about that tattoo and about what would love do.
It's only the words I talk. Inside of me is a ball of fire. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's just like a devil's choir, watching myself in disbelief. What can I say to my heart's thief? to this mood. What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? Can you lessen the noise? Give me a choice. Change my mind to the hand of time. What would love do? There's a space that waits for us, patient while we clear the rust. We are here to love, What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? Change my mind, make me more kind. What would love do?
Thank you, Rebecca, for sharing that beautiful music. Appreciate you. All right, do you have anything to share?
I always have something to say.
I know.
You scratch a minister, he bleeds a sermon.
All right, well, we have prayer partners available to you. If you're facing a challenge right now or even a joy that you'd like to share, just stay seated in your seat. And our prayer partners, if you would stand up, they will come and find you and take you down to our beautiful meditation room and pray with you.
One other thing. You have a golden opportunity to help us create the greatest Easter service that will ever be performed. And we need voices to do it. We're going to ask you to show up 6:30. If you want to sing and can sing at all, show up 6:30 Thursday night and get involved with our choir. We're going to create the greatest Easter service that has ever been performed.
And we're going to circle up.
6:30 Thursday.
And about 10 minutes after the service, we'll hold a circle up back here if you want to come and chat about the sermon or share something with me and the group that gathers. So that will be in the back of the sanctuary back here in about 10 minutes. All right, let's all rise and close with I release and I let go. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Now it's your turn. In the Spirit. Woo, that's awesome singing. And my heart. Yes, I'm only here for love. Gorgeous. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for refreshments in the fellowship hall, so come have some coffee and some tea and we'll chat.